We made up a haunted house when we were youngsters for that reason, and other ones I'll discuss later. Patrick stated that rules were crucial for such things, so we gave it some. We worked there all year round, and it was somewhat of a tradition for us. The true haunted houses, according to Jennifer, never slept. The four of us in our close-knit group at the time partially believed in that stuff, even though we made it all up. Our animated, somber conversation demonstrated how much we wanted to give it life as we sketched pictures and occasionally intricate diagrams of the house's floors, added new rules, or modified the ones we already had always in Greg's sketchbooks, which he kept purchasing under his parents' noses to feed his regrettable habit of creating unsettling images. We are now grown-ups. Greg works in advertising. Jennifer is a pre-med student at the university. Patrick is a real estate agent, and I rotate between retail and construction. Between doing his rounds as a real estate agent, Patrick was the one who discovered the residence. I believe he saw the mansion as he was en route to show off one of the properties he represented. Later, when he wasn't being followed by potential homeowners, he had to return to it. In a neighborhood of smaller homes Patrick had been driving through to reach another area, the 5-story Victorian with steep gabled roofs, conical tower-like additions, and massive bay windows that were entirely boarded up stood out like a giant's rotting yet elaborate sore thumb. The lawn and hedges were completely overgrown. The siding of the house was covered in kudzu and other plants. However, Patrick was convinced by something on the front porch. When he returned, he went in search of it. 3 huge doll heads that had been cut open and repurposed as plant pots were located to the right of the door. In those improvised doll head pots, dingy-looking plants with fruit that was so completely rotten that it looked like old shoe leather we hadn't chosen exactly what would be growing there were propped up and dying. He emailed us photos. As soon as our schedules coincided, that brought us there. After speaking with several of his friends, contacts, and real estate colleagues, Patrick was able to obtain the necessary documents to gain entry to the old property. A few weeks later, the 4 of us were there, standing on the lawn of a house that we had doodled and discussed for many days as children in our rooms, while our parents played cards or watched TV in the little apartment complex. Well, isn't this something Jennifer stated? Patrick, I am aware that you are to blame. However, you really went above and above for this hoax. Because you worked so hard, I'm just going to enjoy myself. Patrick stuffed his hands inside his sports coat pockets. He had bloodshot eyes. It's not my fault. Yes, I replied, but why would this be such a lavish prank? Patrick just stood there, looking at the home while I waited for him to respond. The front yard was almost knee-deep, so I was glad I was wearing jeans instead of khaki shorts. Greg suggested that we review the regulations once more. Amazingly, he had a sketchbook in his hands. Are you crazy? Jennifer stated. That shouldn't matter right now. What if it does? Though Greg uttered those words. What if it's more important now than it was back then? Amazing, Jennifer exclaimed. Let's review the rules once more, Patrick replied glumly. The windows were boarded up, but he appeared to be attempting to look through them. Greg pulled out the sketchbook he was holding. The first one, he said. Wait, I responded. Is that one of your childhood sketchbooks? Greg scoffed. I hope so. When we were moving out of the apartment, I believe my parents discovered the old items and threw them away. But because I read the regulations so frequently, I was able to recall them to a greater or lesser extent. So I wrote them down once more. They should be essentially the same. But since I'm older and, I hope, wiser, the terminology is a little different now. Jennifer remarked, we read through those rules so often with each other. Greg went over the regulations with us all facing the house. Here they are. Never use your fist to knock on the front door. Put your left hand over your eyes and your right hand on the metal knocker to gain admission to the residence. You should hide your eyes if you have someone with you. Make 3 uses of the knocker. The door will be opened for you by someone. Count to 3 while keeping your eyes closed and covered. The person who opened the door for you is not someone you want to see. You can open your eyes and enter after 3 seconds. However, be aware that you are making a contract with the entities in the house when you do this. The agreement is straightforward. You can enter, but if you don't follow the rules, they can hurt you. You are consenting to enter the residence. Electronic gadgets should be kept in a cubby hole in the wall next to the front door. If and when you depart, you can get them back. Don't run, but walk. The creatures in the house will only walk if you do. They will run after you if you run, and they will run if you run. Over the years of chasing humans, they have become extremely quick. You have to solve a riddle on each floor. The entities will pursue you if you fail the problem or run away from it. If you solve the puzzle correctly, you will be able to climb the stairs. Walt the Stairman will pursue you if you ascend the stairs without finishing the problem or attempt to continue past the next story. An entity known as Walt the Stairman spends its time thinking of ways to use stairs to punish people. Over time, those who have attempted to cheat have become more inventive. At the very top of the home, in the attic, is a treasure. This is the reason you're here right now and reviewing the guidelines once more. You will enter and put your life in danger for this reason. The risk is worth it for this prize. Was that how we wrote it back then? Jennifer exclaimed. Greg cleared his throat. Well, essentially. I would like to believe that my diction has somewhat improved since then. Awkwardly, he laughed. However, did we mention the reason why you are here now, going over the rules again in that passage? Jennifer stated. I mean, I do recall everything, including the treasure. I followed it up with my own apprehensive laughing, asking, how could we forget about the treasure? I'm saying that Jennifer continued, it almost seems as though we anticipated being here right now. Reviewing the guidelines once more. You might have fudged that aspect, it seems. This leads me to believe that Greg is complicit in Patrick's prank. Well done, boys. I wholeheartedly support it. If the prank is going to be amusing, I don't mind being the victim. Let's get it done. Hold on, I said. Are we certain we want to proceed? What happens if one of us doesn't know? We never pay much attention to the minutiae of the problems, only the puzzles themselves. They might be anything. You're going to tell me that you think ghosts exist, Jennifer stated. I remarked, we never stated clearly whether it was ghosts. Jennifer's head cocked. What do you want to convey? Spirits? Foreigners? In the deep south of America, Scottish house elves? Perhaps, I replied. Or perhaps it was simply another individual. According to Greg, his sketchbooks vanished. I simply believe that we ought to exercise caution in this regard. Guys and gal, Greg said, don't worry about it. I've been considering it in advance. To give to certain people who wouldn't call me wacko after the fact, I typed up a message. If I don't get back to my phone and delete it by 3 a.m. tomorrow, it will send automatically. Additionally, it will provide them with the address of this residence. My phone will be left in the car. If something were to happen to us before 3 o'clock, or before your buddies arrived, I started. Patrick remarked, I wonder what the treasure could be, then he said, tired of this rat race, so softly that I nearly missed his voice. Well done, Patrick, Jennifer remarked. Go ahead now. I'd prefer to get this show on the road while it's still light out because it will soon grow dark outside, or appear in the home, whatsoever way you like to phrase it. In addition to steps to climb, we have riddles to solve. Yes, Pat, Greg replied. Pretend that we are some people who want to purchase a lovely, eerie home for us. Take care of yourself. We ascended the front steps. With the combined weight of the 4 of us, the ancient wood creaked. I wondered how long the plants in the doll head pots had been dying after taking one quick look at them. I assumed they were probably never living in the first place, whether it was all a fake or not. We inquired as to whether we were all prepared. Insects in our abdomens, our throats are full with hearts. Placing himself in the front, Patrick touched the knocker with his right hand. He gave us a nod. We returned the nod.